So you've recently hit level 40. What now? What's going on, people? It's your boy Steven again, and we are back with another Pokemon Go video. In today's video, we will be discussing the Pokemon Go level cap in terms of level 40 being the level cap at the moment, and potentially even in the future going beyond level 40 and Niantic basically increasing the level cap. So let's get into the video. So I've recently hit level 40 on a second account, and it got me thinking about making this video, and today we are going to discuss what it means to be level 40 and all that stuff. So I've seen a fair few people reach level 40 and having a fallback because they don't have the experience goal anymore. That is a common thing that happens with people who reach level 40. They stop having a motivation to play the game basically because they've reached the maxed level cap and they don't have a feeling of achieving anything anymore. They don't have the motivation to grind anything anymore, to grind experience or that sort of stuff. So today we'll be having a look at what you can do after hitting level 40 and what would happen if Niantic would basically increase the level cap to, let's say for the purpose of this video, to level 50. Most people who reach level 40 don't even have a complete Pokédex. Why is that? Because Niantic have released a update about friendship. People farm a lot of experience from friendship. They don't really care about completing Pokédex. They don't really care about grinding Dex entries, Lucky Eggs, Pokemon mass evolving. I mean, that is all a nice bit of experience, but it's not going to be the main experience of players who are going for level 40 today. I mean, that's basically it. I mean, pop a Lucky Egg for some mass evolutions. You're probably gonna be getting max 100k. You might not even hit 100k in half an hour of a Lucky Egg. That's one friend of 3 hearts in friendship. I mean, that's nothing. I mean, that is 30 days that you have to be active with that person, and you've got 100k. And if you want to collect that many candy to evolve a lot of Pokemons for half an hour, I mean, that's going to take you a lot more time than a month. So basically, friendship is the way to go. So I wanted to discuss, most people don't even have a complete Pokédex, including myself, to be honest. I mean, I've got the complete Gen 1, but then Gen 2, I don't have complete. I don't have Heracross, which is of course a regional, but I don't have it. Then let's say for example Generation 3, Hoenn. Apparently I haven't evolved Ninkara. I mean, I could probably do that right now, but apparently I don't have the Dex entry for Ninkara. That's a regional as well. I don't know which one is 324, probably a regional as well. Tropius of course being a regional as well. I missed the event for Clamperl, so I don't have those. Relicanth, of course, is a regional as well. So completing the Dex, I mean, in Gen 4, for example, Sinnoh, you can see the things that I'm talking about. I still need to work on my Gen 4 Pokédex. That's pretty clear. As you can see right here, there are a ton of Pokemon that I still don't have, including a fair few evolutions that I can probably make, but I don't have. I haven't done that, or I don't have the candy for it yet. So completing the Pokédex is definitely a #1 goal for me after hitting level 40. So completing the Pokédex is definitely something you should probably focus on if you want to play on after 40, because it's a nice goal to complete the Dex, and that has basically always been the point of Pokemon, to be honest. Completing the Dex, even in the games, even in the series, Ash was always out there to basically get as many Pokemon and as many research for Professor Oak as he could possibly get. So what else can you do? There are so many medals in Pokemon Go. I mean, so many, it's not that many, but there are a fair few of medals. As you can see right here, I mean, I've got a fair few of gold medals. You will probably have all those medals gold when you hit level 40, but as you can see, there are clearly still a ton of medals for me to collect that I don't have gold yet. So getting these gold medals is probably something you could work towards. A lot of people who reach level 40 probably don't have every gold medal. That is just basically it. I mean, catch 300 tiny Rattatas. I'm on 74 out of 300. I mean, I've probably caught, I mean, let's check that real quick. How many Rattatas I've caught in my entire Pokemon Go career. As you can see, I've seen 806 and caught 717 Rattatas. I mean, that's not a crazy amount of Rattatas, but only 74, that is 10% of all the Rattatas I've caught in the entire time that I've played this game, which were tiny and basically were eligible for the tiny Rattata medal. So working towards gold medals is definitely something you can set yourself as a goal, but we will get into these medals in a later part of the video, because I definitely want to get back to those medals when we get to the next part of the video. So keep watching, definitely keep watching. You can always set yourself a new goal of experience. You might have reached level 40, which is 20 mil experience. You can then start grinding towards experience goals as well. Some people just do that. Take for example the #1 Pokemon Go player, Brandon Tam. He only works towards experience goals, or he works towards Stardust goals as well. So you can just set yourself a goal of 30 mil experience, 40 mil experience, 50 mil, 100 mil. You could set yourself a Stardust goal as well, 10 mil, 20 mil, 100 mil as well. So that is something you can put out for yourself and then grind towards. I mean, of course, you need to make the decision on your own, and there isn't really a incentive to do that if you do not want to grind that much. But you can definitely do that. Now, something that I definitely do work on is making my counters better. I grind candy and Stardust to power up my great counters, so I can take raid bosses down easier and also prepare for new ones. So I'll quickly show you an example of what I mean with that. For example, the best fighting type counter is Machamp. I've got a ton of Machamps, and I've maxed out 1 or 2, I believe, but it's definitely something I work towards. I mean, getting better Machamps, getting higher IVs Machamps, getting lucky Machamps, and then grinding candy and maxing them out. I mean, at the moment, Mesprit is a Psychic type tier 5 boss, so I don't really have the incentive to max any Machamps. For example, this Machamp is completely maxed out. This one is definitely not, but as you can see, I mean, I've got a ton of decent Machamps. I've got 96 as my highest IVs, I believe. I don't think I have a 98, nope. So getting a 100% Machamp would definitely be on the list, but it's of course nothing that I can control. I need to just encounter or hatch a 100% Machamp. For example, Tyranitar's also a decent counter. You see, I've got a fair few of Tyranitars, I've got a few decent ones as well, but I've only maxed out this 96 one. Of course, if you max out a, let's say, 90 IV Tyranitar, and you then, after you max that one out, you get a 100%, or just in general a higher than you already have, you might be disappointed and you might be wasting that Stardust. But as you can see, I've got a lot of counter teams, and I really want to grind those candies and that Stardust to power them up, of course. Now, there is one last thing that of course gets you to play the game, and that is basically that you love the game. You like playing Pokemon Go, and that's definitely a factor for me as well. I just like the game. Something that has always kept me going is the love for Pokemon. in general. So that is also something to take into consideration when you go above 40 or beyond 40. I mean, just liking the game is of course a big motivation to play the game. That's pretty obvious. Something that has kept me going as well is having a second account. So I just in the beginning of the video I told you that I've hit 40 on a second account. In this video you are seeing my main account, which I've been 40 on for a few months, but I've recently hit on a second account level 40. So that's definitely a motivation for me to keep playing the game after I reached 40 on my main account, because I was still grinding for experience on a second account. So that definitely helped me overcome a potential drawback after hitting 40 on my main account. So will Niantic ever release an increase in the level cap? That is a good question. That is something that we are going to have a look at right now. Let's say they just add 10 more levels, and 50 is then the max level. In order to get level 50 you need 100 total million experience. That's all speculation, it's just for the purpose of this video, it's just for example. But what happens when people who have already gotten a certain amount of experience beyond level 40, I mean, then would they jump from level 40 to 50 if they already have 100 mil experience? That would be a big blow for those people, because such a big update in terms of Pokemon Go would just pass them by. Therefore, I think that they should probably implement it in a different way. They should probably take a different approach to it. So getting back to those medals we were discussing at the beginning of the video, in the first game Niantic developed called Ingress, they have a certain mechanic that requires you to have a certain amount of medals to reach a certain amount of level. So that is something that I see Niantic doing, because they've already implemented in their first game. So why not take it over into Pokemon Go? So they could just release a bunch of new medals that you would have to complete in order to progress a level. For example, this would be a very efficient way to, of course, implement a new level cap. Of course, they would need to bring in new medals, because if they would just use the old medals, of course there are again going to be people who already have completed all the medals, who already have all the golden medals. So again, if they had all the golden medals and they have all the experience, would they again jump to level 50 again? I mean, that is definitely not something that they should do. I mean, people could be raging or be salty when Niantic would increase the level cap and they would not get to level 50 because they already have the experience requirement. But again, there would be a lot of people who could potentially be disappointed that they cannot grind towards a new goal. They would already be the new max level, and that is definitely something I think Niantic should avoid. So for example, with this update they should have to release, of course, new medals that you would have to complete, and a pretty straightforward medal for me that comes to mind is a medal involving throws. So for example, that make 1,000 nice throws could be your bronze medal. Then the silver medal could be great throws, 500 for example, and then the gold medal could be 250 excellent throws. I mean, that's 1750 throws that you're gonna have to make and hit, of course. Of course, if you hit 1,000 excellent throws, you just complete them all. Or you just hit 500 excellent throws and then 500 nice throws, you could also complete this medal. So they could just add such a medal, for example, which is pretty straightforward if you ask me, and it's a pretty easy one as well to think about. So they could tie in, for example, getting that medal to getting a certain amount of experience. So let's say you need to get 7.5 mil experience to reach level 41, and you need that gold medal. Of course, you're gonna get that gold medal before you, of course, get 7.5 million experience, because it's not that difficult and it's not gonna grant you that much experience catching 2,000 Pokemon. So they could also, of course, they would have to, of course, implement a whole lot of new different medals, but that is something they should definitely think about or consider. I mean, that would definitely be, in my opinion, a pretty efficient way to increase the level cap. So, onwards to the next point. You get this point, of course. Another way they could go about it is just setting a fixed amount of experience on getting for the next level. So whatever your current experience is does not matter. When you reach 40, okay, you might have reached 50 mil total experience. That does not matter when this update drops. It would mean that you would just have to get 7.5 million experience to get towards the next level. That is pretty easy, and then potentially 10 mil for getting to level 42, regardless of your total experience. So after this update drops, everybody who is 40, not taking into consideration what your total experience is, would have to get 7.5 million experience to get to level 41. They would have to get 10 million experience again after hitting 41 to get 42. This would give players an experience goal, but it would also give people who have already hit big numbers of experience a thing to work towards the next level cap, but they would still, of course, retain that total experience, because that wouldn't devaluate it, because you could still show off that you, for example, have 100 million total experience, but still you would have to work towards getting level 50. You would be equal to somebody who only has half the experience, which could be, on some points you could argue that that is not fair, but again, I don't think people who have reached those numbers of experience would even mind it that much. So that is definitely something they should consider. But would increasing the level cap be good for the game is a good question that you have to ask yourself, because increasing the level cap would mean higher level trainers, and therefore would mean, if they follow the logic of the game, that you would have to be able to power up your Pokemon to higher CPs as well. Because if there is no difference between a level 40 and a level 50 except for the experience that you've gained, I mean, that would not give players who have reached level 50 a big advantage over people who have not reached level 50. I mean, that would not that would be a very strange way to approach this new potential level cap, and it would be a less motivating thing to even reach level 50 if it's not going to give you an advantage in any way. So when you think about getting higher CPs, you also have to think about power creeping in the game. It is always difficult to deal with this kind of power creep in a game that gets updated on a regular basis. People who have played other online games, definitely MMO games, definitely know what power creep is. I mean, with all the new updates, eventually there will be things that get better, of course. If you increase the level cap from 40 to 50, and you would be able to power up your Pokemon a lot higher, because basically when you max out a Pokemon, in theory it is level 40 behind the scenes. Your Pokemon is basically level 40, but if you go up to 50 and you can power up your Pokemon to, in theory, level 50, it is going to be having a super high CP. We would probably be talking about 6,000-7,000 CPs on certain Pokemon who already reach 4,000 right now. So that is going to, of course, be a difficult thing to manage for the game, because power creep is a real problem for some games. Would that mean that you would be able to solo every tier 5 because you've maxed out Pokemon at level 50? That is, of course, against what Niantic see from Pokemon Go. They want people connecting with each other. They want people to play this game together. Raiding is purposely put in the game to get people together, to form a community, to bond with certain people, to experience this game with your community and not just play solo. This game is not focused on solo playing. That is just the case. Of course, there are certain Pokemon or raids that you can solo, but a level 5 is not meant to be soloed because it's meant to be played in a group. So increasing the CPs and levels could be something dangerous for the game, and they have to balance it out properly. So that is definitely a big point to consider if they would ever go with increasing the level cap. So that is a lot of things you need to take into consideration. And with that, we are going to wrap up this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. So leave a comment with any suggestions you might have for the increase in level cap, and subscribe for more Pokemon content on this channel. So I'm gonna thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!